traditions always seem to last. It's so weird, you know, like one day you're celebrating summer, the next day you've graduated. Speaking of summer, the year 2002 was a very interesting year for movies. Just in the summer alone, you had nearly the last time a Star Wars movie was released in the summer, the introduction to the greatest Spider-Man the world has ever known, and the most over-the-top James Bond movie. Yeah, this one was bad. If you want to extend the list of just films released in 2002, you can't forget Treasure Planet, The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. But today, we're talking about a staple from the classic DVD collection from my childhood, Lilo and Stitch. This movie was released on June 21st, 2002, meaning that this movie is technically 20 years old now. Yeah, it was such a unique Disney classic, the sci-fi elements really helped it stand out among its contemporaries. It's about the love between sisters, not the love between lovers. This movie has amassed quite the legacy. I mean, who can forget the Happy Meal promotion released earlier this year, consisting of just Stitch bag clips. If that's not longevity, I don't know what is. My name is Richard Scrabble, and this film is coming soon to DVD and video.
Everyone's favorite corporate screwhead, Michael Eisner, best known for his actions such as inadvertently creating DreamWorks by treating Jeffrey Katzenberg like dirt, and trying to Palpatine his friends into power at the Walt Disney Company, decided to make a lower-budgeted animated feature to increase profits during the Renaissance era. When storyboard artist Chris Sanders heard the news, he pitched an idea revolving around Stitch, a character he created for an envisioned children's book that thankfully never saw the light of day. The setting for Stitch always sort of dealt with a rural, non-urban location, originally chosen to be Kansas. However, Sanders made one important change, having the film take place in Hawaii. Out of all the changes made to the film, this one is probably the most integral.
Animation has been set so much in ancient or medieval Europe. So many fairy tales find their roots there. But to place it in Hawaii is kind of a big leap. But what choice did the color have when it went to the entire movie? Rewrite the story for us.
And he was right. Disney is famous for its medieval, less developed settings. With Lilo and Stitch, the first animated feature to take place on any of the Hawaiian Islands, period, it was important to make sure the film was accurate and respectful to the actual culture. Traveling to Kauai for research, their tour guide introduced them to the subject of Ohana.
No matter where we went, our tour guide seemed to know somebody. He was really the one who explained to us the Hawaiian concept of Ohana, a sense of family that extends far beyond your immediate relatives. That idea so influenced the story that it became the foundation theme, the thing that causes Stitch to evolve despite what he was created to do, which is destroy.
Disney artists were faced with a new task: accurately depict the lifestyles of Hawaiians during the then recent recession as caused by the 2001 terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center, depict the island's raw beauty, and fit all of this with a plot about togetherness and family. Here lies the decision to further differentiate the film from every Disney movie up to that point. While most films were about romance, this film was about sisters, dealing with the then recent loss of their parents. All of these puzzle pieces fit together for the most unique Disney movie up to that point, and debatably, it hasn't been exceeded since. Similar to Monsters, Inc., there was a sequence believed by the crew to be too, let's just say, insensitive. It's best to let the scene speak for itself.
Before a children's movie comes out, the Happy Meal promotion does. Orson Welles said that, may he rest in peace. Unicron from the Transformers movie 1987.
Stitch has made 3 appearances at McDonald's, with Lilo at a close second with 2. Commercials for the first film's promotion somewhat resemble the teasers for the first film, with Stitch hijacking just a standard McDonald's commercial, such as this one you see here.
Special sauce. Hey, Stitch, get your own commercial.
Head to McDonald's and share in the magic and fun of Disney's newest full-length animated feature film, Lilo and Stitch. And pick up our cool new Surf Bobbler Happy Meal toys.
Oh, there's one in every family.
Other ones are more straightforward, like normal Happy Meal commercials. If you remember what they used to look like, this is that.
We tried to be cool, panko and smooth. But we knew only one thing would satisfy Fred's need to feed. McDonald's Mighty Kids Meal, which everyone knows is Fred's favorite food. Suddenly, Fred was fine. Mighty hungry, Mighty Kids Meal.
Now you can get a Lilo and Stitch bobblehead toy, only at McDonald's.
There was a second promotion for Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch, with toys that I'm not looking at the moment, so you'll have to tell me if they're good or bad.
There's one of these Lilo and Stitch toys in every McDonald's Happy Meal.
There was also a collection earlier this year consisting of just bag clubs of Stitch.
With crunchy apples in every McDonald's Happy Meal, I can feed my wild side and get an even wilder Stitch toy.
McDonald's and Sony Connect are hooking up for the greatest music deal in history. Every time you buy a Big Mac meal, you get a free song. Just go to Connect.com and get your access to hundreds of thousands of hot tracks.
So getting into this game, I'm greeted to a wonderful crunchy .3GP file. Probably the main selling point of the game. Disney never had any GBA video movies, and this was a bit before portable DVD players really started taking over, so I guess they were ahead of the game here. You know, this game really reminded me of something else.
2 hours later.
I can confirm this game is just Metal Slug, but with a Lilo and Stitch font. The plot of this game features Lilo getting kidnapped, appearing very nonchalant about it, followed immediately by Stitch grabbing his pistols and committing interstellar genocide on an invading species. This game is kind of unfair. You get 3 heads, it's hard to dodge everything. The special shots keep getting wasted, and the pineapple grenades have a limited range, so you can't hit anything, barely. Earlier in the construction of this review, I considered mailing the cartridge to my art guy, Ben. He's a GBA guy, so I figured it would be kind of easy to get him in on it. Well, that didn't work out, so I got stuck on the Lilo level, so I kinda had to resort to watching gameplay on YouTube. It's kind of funny how it references the movie with its mosquito antagonist, but don't really bother with this one. It's not that fun. You'll have a hard time playing. But I bet you're wondering what that real movie clip looks like. So here's all I could put in without getting copyright claimed just for you.
you going?
Unfortunately, due to me not wanting to wait any longer to get this game shipped to my door, or dump more than $20 on this video, I was unable to secure a copy. However, from what I hear, this game was fairly lousy. To quote the GameSpot review,
Lilo and Stitch is basically a low-rent carbon copy of Crash Bandicoot. The game's designers used the classic PlayStation platformer's linear 3D level designs quite heavily, and likewise with all the requisite variations. The side-scrolling stages and the running into the camera toward the player stages. You'll get to play as both Lilo and Stitch, and both of them control basically the same, save for one key point. Lilo doesn't have nearly as many moves as Stitch does. Lilo, the little girl who finds and adopts the bizarre, ferocious alien Stitch, is able to jump and attack enemies with short-ranged modes of voodoo.
Now voodoo is referenced in the movie in this one scene.
My friends need to be punished.
But I guess magic is just a thing now? What's next? Sandwich alien? Regardless, all I can do right now is judge the game from the footage I have available to me. Which, I can at least confirm the Crash Bandicoot comparisons. Looks like it controls kinda cheaply compared to Crash, which, considering my controversial take on those games, means I probably won't enjoy this one all too much. It's kinda weird how a couple of the bosses in this game are just like rock monsters and stuff. It's kinda weird. The environments do, however, look kinda cute. The mechanic of filling Stitch's bad meter is kinda neat and accurate to the movie. Why are the enemies on the stage cows? Are those things in Hawaii? The character bosses seem to be the most iconic. You got Jumbo with Pleakley on his shoulder like they're doing reenactment of Empire Strikes Back. Myrtle's stage implies the road looks like this. I'd hate to see the insurance prices here. Cobra Bubbles just aggressively chases Lilo down a path.
Oh, but there could be more of these. We need to find them and get rid of them somewhere. I know. We can throw them in the volcano!
And the final boss is, of course, Gontu. Sadly, it isn't a big bombastic Star Fox battle in the middle of that Hawaiian city from that deleted scene. Instead, Stitch is just being shot at from Gontu's spaceship while running away, just like the Jumbo boss was. The weirdest thing about this game is the framing of the story. The story is pitched as, get to Nani by 1 o'clock or else, and that isn't really touched on again unless you maybe count the Cobra Bubble stuff. It's weird, the game can be beaten in an hour, but it's got charm. Probably plays terribly, but at least it's easy on the eyes. Maybe watch the long play on YouTube if you're curious.
Hypermetabolism will heal your wounds in no time. Now that checkpoint is active, I can...
You're on your own! So much mischief, so much destruction, so much for being man's best friend. You've never had a pet like this. Disney Stitch Experiment 626, rated E for everyone.
I finally have a chance to talk about this big black and blue DVD player since I finally have a game for it. This glorified doorstop was the main reason VHS died, as it truly convinced parents to start buying DVDs instead of VHS tapes for their children. Turning the game on, I was greeted to the seemingly lovable sounds of the actual voices of Jumbo and Stitch. I was thinking this game would be a pleasant little hidden gem on PS2. You know, just, something kind of cute like that. I think the developers had Sonic on the mind because look at this. Also, apparently this game takes about 12 hours to complete, so guess who just watched the cutscenes and boss battles on YouTube? Also, the minimal footage of the game I actually personally recorded myself looks like this. Don't worry, the issue isn't with the best-selling console of all time, the PlayStation 2, it's with the infinitely harder to replace Sony Trinitron from 2003, of which I've only seen one in person ever. This being that one. The plot of this game is basically Experiment 621 teams up with an early iteration of Dr. Hamsterville to overthrow Jumba. It culminates when 621 takes steroids and makes himself huge.
Was that the bite of 87?
After this, Jumba and 621 get arrested and Stitch has to save Jumba. After fighting Gontu, they make their escape on a police cruiser similar to the one in the opening act of the movie. Out of all the games I've covered here, this one probably makes you feel the most like Stitch. In the movie it's mentioned his weakness is water, and aside from that he's pretty much indestructible. The game copies that feeling kinda. In place of lives and game overs, you just respawn instantly. As much as I would love for a Stitch game where you're invincible the whole time, this feels like a good trade-off. The main bulk of this game is collecting DNA from foreign planets where most of the scenery is destructible. It truly makes you feel like an unstoppable force without letting you be too powerful. Also, note here is the soundtrack. Since the game is a prequel dedicated to Jumba's adventures with Stitch, it makes sense not to include Elvis. But the game goes even further to include this sort of heavy rock-inspired soundtrack. Not what I associate with the franchise, but it's not terrible.
I will catch you, you little trud!
Excellent 626. Yeah!
Over the previous handful of episodes, we've had a mostly universal experience with websites. With very llama-shaped exceptions, the websites are typically not all there, with some problems clearly under the hood, so where does Lilo stand amongst all this? Pretty much like Monsters Inc. The games that were there are now lost in the endless desert of the internet of yesteryear. Not even the printable Lost Stitch poster remains. Well, at least I have the personal computer Stitch app.
Some animals are lovable, adorable,
also cute and fluffy.
Stitch is a party animal.
Once again, we are faced with the DVD and VHS releases. The DVD was limited to a one-disc edition with some bonus features, and the VHS is basically the same old, same old. I didn't purchase a copy for this video, but I was lucky enough to find one at Goodwill. Was I too cheap to spend $1 on a VHS for this? Yes. So using only the finest of guerrilla filming techniques, I got on my hands and knees at Goodwill and took this video of it. Beautiful, I know. Anyways, here's the DVD. Interestingly enough, this film is unique for Disney in the sense that most of the soundtrack is dedicated to pre-existing songs by popular artists, in this case Elvis. As a side note, it's a funny coincidence that there's an Elvis movie out this year, 20 years after the greatest film ever to include his music, bar none. The film also has original music by Mark Kili Io Amalo and the Kamehameha School's Children's Chorus. Tracks are Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride and Himili no Lilo. These tracks are standouts on the soundtrack, and these, in specific, were staples of my childhood. Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride in particular, as it was the first track on the CD. The score itself by Alan Silvestri is also great. Of course, everything he does is great. Back to the Future, The Avengers, Captain America, Polar Express, and more. Hard to go wrong when you have him involved. The impact of Lilo and Stitch is simply impossible to be understated. Stitch instantly cemented himself as a Disney icon, even if this was technically his first starring role. The franchise grew to include a direct-to-DVD sequel, a television series. They really scaled down Gontu for this, didn't they? A direct-to-DVD... Does that say two? And a direct-to-DVD finale to the television series. Spoiler alert, Timon and Pumbaa are canonically Stitch's cousins, and an upcoming live-action adaptation. All of this is, of course, ignoring the copious amount of merchandise, by the way. Hot Topic has never been the same since this movie came out. But back to the topic of the live-action remake. Out of all the Disney movies that could have possibly been made, this one is probably the one that would spit in the face of the original the most. The original film makes it clear that Stitch is supposed to be this ugly, frightening creature.
That is the ugliest thing I have ever saw. Yeah!
Except that one! What is that thing? A dog, I think. But it was dead this morning. It was dead this morning? When we thought it was dead, it was hit by a truck.
But thanks to the art style, he's adorable to the audience and allows us to love him. If you take the design to live action, it would be immensely difficult to replicate this sort of effect. Not to mention the creative black hole you fall into when producing a remake like this. Personally, I'm of the opinion that anything can be taken from one medium to another. However, you need to do this by comparing the strengths of each medium. And for Stitch, I can't really see one. It would take something really special in order to make this work. Something I don't trust Disney to do after Beauty and the Beast. For something as bold and different as Lilo and Stitch compared to the original Disney catalog, it needs something special, if they even think of bringing this into live action. Something I, unfortunately, don't trust Disney with. Not anymore.